Calcutta, once a city of palaces, has been neglected, humiliated and abused for years, but still the city enjoys the most interesting place in India. August 24, 1690. Amidst heavy rainfall, Jude Charnock of East India Company founded a trading center at Shutanutikhat, now in Calcutta, which in later years became the center of the British Empire in India. Charnock died in Calcutta within 2.5 years after his landing. In 1696, a war between Surba Singh and Rahim Khan broke out, enabling the British to erect a fort to protect themselves. The fort was built by Goldsborough and was situated near the bank of the river Hooghly and contained the residence of the governor as well as dwellings for the factors and writers as related by Alexander Hamilton early in the 18th century. The actual building had 2 stories, a long house with projecting wings and a colonnade towards the sea gate. But this fort had been heavily damaged in 1756 by the attack of Siraj-ud-Dowlah, the then Nawab of Bengal. But the following year the British, led by Lord Clive, regained their supremacy at Plassey and erected yet another gigantic fort at Govindpur, one of the 3 villages that emerged to make Calcutta. Completed in 1773, the new fort was to remain one of the most outstanding military works. The architect was a Captain Brohier. There were 5 heavily fortified entrances, the barracks, bomb-proof chambers, and an arsenal which included 600 guns, 60,000 muskets, 20,000 swords, and 5,000 barrels of gunpowder were enough to establish their foothold and ruled India for nearly another 200 years. The splendors of the British arms, wrote Daniels, produced a sudden change in the aspect. The roof suddenly vanished, marble columns took the place of brick walls, and princely mansions were erected. From the last decade of the 18th century to the middle of the 19th century, Calcutta had an appearance of neoclassical character, which had its roots in Greece and Rome. The prospect of trading in Calcutta was due to the facilities of the port that determined the British to set up their administrative headquarters. In course of time, more and more Englishmen came, expanded their business, and increased their profits to build and reside in great splendor. Viewed from the Hooghly, according to many travelers, the European town of Calcutta, which included the Esplanade, Chowringhee and the Tank Square, had the appearance of a city of palaces. The Europeans restricted themselves mainly around the Tank Square, for the reservoir provided them with great relief from the oppressive heat. Near the Tank Square, the first administrative building built by the East India Company in Calcutta was the Writers' Buildings in 1780 to house young European clerks. Military engineers were the only architects available. Thomas Lyon, a former carpenter, designed this building with a resemblance to barracks without any architectural ornament. The entire facade was relieved only by ionic pilasters and a balustraded parapet. This classical building contained 19 sets of apartments, all identical. The remarkable change in the appearance of the late 18th century Calcutta was the erection of St. John's Church in 1787. James Agg, the architect, was inspired from Gibbs's prototype of St. Martin in the Fields. Later, colonnaded verandas were added for the protection of the scorching sun, which took many lives of the Europeans at their prime to be buried at the Park Street Cemetery. It was said that 2 monsoons was the life of an European. Child mortality was highest. The city of imperial dead was adorned by the neoclassical architectural beauty with domes, pyramids and tombs. But the scene of the esplanade was dominated by Wellesley's government house, whose foundation stone was laid in 1799. After its completion in 1803, the Governor-General declared Calcutta the capital of the British Empire in India. The architect was Charles Wyatt of Bengal Engineers. The prototype was followed from Kedleston Hall in Derbyshire, London. To suit the Indian climate, Wyatt altered the original prototype. Wellesley came to Calcutta in 1798 and found the old government house to be inadequate and ordered a new palatial building for, as Lord Valentia observed after its completion, that India should be ruled from a palace, not from a counting house, with the ideas of a prince, not with those of a retail dealer in muslins and indigo. In the horizontal structure of Calcutta's government house, now Raj Bhavan, with that of Kedleston, was that the Calcutta government house had 3 stories instead of 2 in the original Kedleston prototype. This building, with a 24-acre compound, was adorned by 4 monumental neoclassical gateways, resembling Robert Adams' Sion House in Middlesex. These gateways were comprised of arches surmounted by lions and sphinxes. The material used was brick and plaster. The Palladian style of Wellesley's government house could again be found in the Mammoth Town Hall when, in 1807, a lottery was held to raise money from the public for meetings of the residents of Calcutta. The architect was John Garstin, and it took 7 years to complete. The hexastyle Tuscan Doric pillars of its portico proclaimed the vitality of the building. But by 1824, the Palladian tradition disappeared, and the Greek revival crept in to make room for Forbes's Old Mint, which was an imitation from the Temple of Minerva in Athens. With the advent of the Gothic revival in Europe during the mid-19th century, the colonist here was quick enough to adopt the style for St. Paul's Cathedral Church, which was completed in 1847 by W.N. Forbes. The Christian perpendicular Gothic was adapted to the vicissitudes of the climate. The lancet windows in the choir were built close to the plinth level to increase ventilation. The massive Gothic High Court, completed in 1872, was built by Walter Granville, which remained as one of the astounding buildings. It was modelled from the 13th century Cloth Hall in Belgium, and it was believed that when the original building was destroyed in the First World War, the Mayor of Belgium requested the Mayor of Calcutta to cooperate with him for its reconstruction. Completed in 1873, the monumental structure of the General Post Office by Granville was yet another massive work dominated by a corner dome, punctuated by huge rustic pylons which are linked by Corinthian colonnades. The Indian Museum, which was built in 1875, also attracted people for the massive simplicity of Italian-style facade. The original writers' buildings, with its Baroque character, changed to the Gothic revival in 1880. The terracotta effect, with a Corinthian facade and a dummy portico and pediment, proclaimed the popularity of the Gothic revival. If used with freedom and taste, according to James Ferguson, no style might be better adapted for Indian use than Gothic, but in order to apply it there, various changes in arrangement must be made, which, unfortunately, the purist cannot tolerate. In 1858, transfer of power from East India Company to the British Crown took place, and India became an empire in itself, where Queen Empress in London was represented by a Viceroy in Calcutta. After the foundation stone was laid in 1906, this building was dedicated to the memory of Queen Empress Victoria and remained as a landmark of imperial architecture in India. During the early 19th century, the Black Town, which was in the northern part of the city, was occupied by the wealthy natives. The town, according to Bishop Heber, was dingy with narrow and crooked lanes. The affluent class, or the Babus of the town, among others, were the Tagores, Maliks, Debs, Seals, Lahas, and were called the Banyas, Mutsuddis, and Diwans. The rich Babus were so much inspired by the European architectural grandeur that they began to adopt the same for their individual residences. Among the most extraordinary building of that era was the Marble Palace, which was built in 1835 by Raja Rajendra Malik. The Babus used to show off their wealth by vying with one another through rituals like Durga Puja, followed by extravagant expenditure on entertainment, which included the performance of the Noches, the status symbol of Babu culture. Invitations were sent to the Europeans in their magnificent palaces, who honored the dazzling feast by their presence. the glittering dresses of the Nauches, their slow movements, the rich dresses of the Rajas, the dazzling lights of the chandeliers, all made the scene a world of fantasy. Gone are those days of splendor when sites could easily be obtained at a cheaper price to provide with eye-catching gardens. Economic pressure, aggravated by physical destruction after the Second World War, gave birth to steel and concrete style of buildings. The vogue in architecture that rocked the world in the 40s of this century did not escape notice of this cosmopolitan city to adapt accordingly in later years. The change from the horizontal type of buildings to the vertical ones after independence was the outcome of a philosophy derived from the social and technological revolution, with an emphasis on comfort for the many rather than luxury for the few.